Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to another edition of Kal's Corner Radio here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Folks, as I say at the beginning of every show, because it's true, I'll do it again. On this show, Kal's Corner, we cover everything from politics to the paranormal. That means we cover all kinds of subjects all over the map. Today we're going to deal again with both politics and the paranormal. Let's start with politics real quick and then we'll kick over to the paranormal and pick up from where we left off last week. All right, politics. Right now, the hearings are on. They're live based on the social traffic that's going on. A lot of people seem glued to their TVs to find out where the smoking guns are that will impeach President Donald Trump. Well, so far, and I've only followed the news reports on this, I'm not going to waste 6 to 9 hours a day. I don't have that time, even as a journalist, to listen to every word and watch the soap opera going on. So far, there doesn't seem to be something that's really going to have the natives drive him out of Washington, D.C. Not yet. Either they don't have the evidence or they're going to build up and there's some climax coming. Who knows? I just found it funny that Bill Clinton has given him advice now on impeachment. You got to love that. I wonder if they compared women's stories when they were talking. And then, you look at what's going on, and again, it's along political lines, and that's the problem. I remember in America where even as a young kid, when Nixon resigned, Americans united together, the political parties united together for what was then called the greater common good. That concept seems to be lost on everybody. Everybody seems to be all about themselves. I think selfies are the epitome of that. And we used to just call them photos. Now they're selfies. It's about self. It's about me. They're just photos, folks. Remember before you had a smartphone, if you were alive back then and you're listening to this, people had cameras, dedicated cameras. Wow. What a thing that's rapidly heading towards the past. At least it's becoming a niche market now. They had dedicated cameras. They had film. They had to take it to a developer, pay money. They got one print back unless they paid for extras. They got a set of negatives if they didn't use slides. And people took photos. They didn't call them selfies. They were photos. Well, they still are, but they're called selfies. And I find that interesting because I think it's a piece of evidence about this me first, me too. If it feels good, it must be right. culture, which of course is not good. It doesn't matter what country does it. I've seen other cultures and other areas of the world where the decadence there is way over the top, and it's not sustainable, and let's be honest, it's morally wrong. Anyway, so we have, again, the divided states of America. We have this impeachment thing going on. I have no idea how it's going to go out. I've been asked by a lot of people. People are even trying to pressure me to make predictions, half of whom want me to be wrong. Well, I'm not going to play that game. I don't know how it's going to come out, and I've even told my closest friends this. And I've decided I'm going to do other things, let these guys do whatever they're going to do, because they're going to do it anyway. And then I'll just take it from there once they issue the final report. Okay? I think that's the most efficient way to spend my time, at least. Meanwhile, the world continues to implode. Not enough people seem to care. Let's see. This week, word came out that communist China, yes, communist China, which is really totalitarian capitalist China, but they call themselves communists. They have over 500 concentration camps and gulags. Well, folks, I got news for you. Having lived in India for 7 years, China's a neighbor, done a lot of reporting on China. That number is actually underreported. They have a lot more than that, many of whom you'll never even know about, or even know about the people who are forever disappeared in there, both killed and remain alive and disappeared, out of sight, out of mind, nobody cares, or those who care can't get the word out. But the world doesn't care, the UN doesn't care, the UN Security Council doesn't care, America, the United States government doesn't care. They say, oh, it's a sovereign nation issue. No, it's a universal human rights issue. We should all care, because if everybody cared, there wouldn't be any communist country on the planet left. But there still is, and it's soon to be the world's second most populous nation, because the world's largest democratic nation, India, is about to surpass it, at least population-wise, not economically. That will probably never happen, knowing Indian culture the way I do. I hope I'm wrong. Anyway, over 500 concentration camps and gulags in communist China. Wow, what a shock. No, it's not a shock, folks. It's predictable. In fact, that number is underreported. I have reported on some of those camps, especially in the Muslim area, where the Chinese are basically exterminating Islam. And, of course, minority Muslims who are not violent. They're not interested in jihad. They don't care what Hamas does. They can't stand Hamas. But China's exterminating them anyway, because that's what communists do. Either you subvert to their ideology or they kill you, and history has essentially supported that. Communism remains the number one political system which has caused more mass genocide than any other in known recorded history. That's communism. Again, a lot of people don't know that Stalin killed at least twice as many people as Hitler did. Hitler gets all the bad press. Russia adores Stalin, even today. Most Russians do. That's pathetic. I'm sorry. And we must remember that Chairman Mao killed even more people than Stalin did, around twice as many, if not 3 times as many people. Estimates indicate he may have killed as many as 200 million. We don't know. Nobody cared. Nobody bothered counting the bodies. We know that at least 70 to 100 million people, minimum, were exterminated under Chairman Mao, who, of course, is idolized today. They have no choice in China because the Communist Party runs that country. So what's going on now, more reports are coming out, and I'm going to be writing a special coming up in Daily World newspaper, both on this and also another special where I actually have on-the-ground reporting from some of these really secret locations. This includes the Gulag areas, as well as the area now that is under Syrian Kurdish control, because American President Donald Trump decided on his own, against all common sense and the advice of everybody that mattered, to pull out of Syria. Thank God the commanders who have to deal with reality on the ground slow-rolled it, and that gave them time to carry out the mission to execute al-Baghdadi, and they got him. But if they had followed Trump's timeline, he won't tell you this, of course, because he's Donald Trump, they would have never got him. Okay. We talked about al-Baghdadi's assassination earlier. We will not go back into that today. What else is going on? Bloomberg may run for president. I hope he does. I hope 1 billion people run for the Democratic nomination. It's a circus. We need more people, because all the people running there right now, I wish They could do better, but, they're not going to. Again, I've talked about it before. Kamala Harris, she's going to drop out after she bombs out in Iowa. That's my prediction. I don't hope I'm wrong on that one. It's not an ego thing. I just think she is not what America needs. Hillary Clinton keeps saying, a lot of people are telling me they want me to run. That's her way of, just punking people. She may very well run because, let's be honest, nobody's running away with the nomination yet on the Democratic Party. Joe Biden is pretty much on life support. Bernie Sanders had a heart attack. Elizabeth Warren is galvanizing audiences. But she would not win a national vote against Trump unless he continues to do stupid things and lose his own support. Then there's Mayor Pete, right? He's gaining steam, but that's because the others are failing. Again, you don't have a dominant candidate in there, going in there kicking ass, rewriting things, change we can believe in, whatever the con is this time around. It ain't happening. Unbelievable. And on the Republican side, well, you got Trump, and that's it. And, of course, he's not really a hardcore Republican, but they're going along with it. The problem is record numbers of Republicans are not going to run or dropping out. So unless people just vote only Republican, they're hosed. That combined with demographics, with double the number of illegal aliens in the U.S. versus what they claim. It's more like 22 to 25 million versus only 11, like the Democrats lie and like to underreport it by at least 2 to 1. You combine all of that stuff, and basically America's going to turn blue, for better or for worse, meaning the Democrats, in their infinite wisdom, are busily remaking America so that California is the blueprint and the role model for the rest of the country. And if they succeed in that, folks, as a born and raised native Californian who thankfully doesn't live there now, oh boy, we're in trouble as a nation. I mean, let's be honest, for 7 years now, more people have been leaving California than moving into it. That's never happened before. And there's one political party we can thank for that, the Democrats. The reason we can thank them is because they have a super duper majority now. They have no opposition. The other party might as well not even show up for work because they're irrelevant. With the supermajority, you don't have to do anything. You literally are irrelevant. You can stand on principle, but it doesn't matter. So what happens is when the Democrats fell and more problems continue in California, and absolutely that is the only thing going on there, not a lot of solutions. Their new rent control law is a joke, sop to the rich again. Passed by the rich, Newsom family. They're wealthy, of course. In with the Pelosi's and, of course, the Browns, all one happy, corrupt family, series of families. Again, this is what's going on over in California, and they want this to be the role model for the rest of the country. I think at some point Americans will push back. I just hope they do it sooner than later, or if they don't do it within the next election or two, it really is going to be too late. And the reason why is because Texas is turning blue. It's purple. Nevada has pretty much gone blue now. Reno is still purple, but, Nevada's the power center, so it doesn't matter. It's hardcore blue, and Pelosi's buddies run the state of Nevada now, and the joke is that Nevada is now Eastern California. All right, enough about politics. I think I've summarized up the important stories, at least for now. After this commercial break, we'll go back to the paranormal, and we'll continue where we talked last week, and I'll tell you about the new books coming out with Rob McConnell that I'm really excited about and why they're impactful. We'll be right back.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shamans worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Shamanic healing is the key to personal empowerment. Why? All 4 levels of our being, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, must be addressed for us to enjoy balanced, healthy, abundant lives. Yet there are few provisions for spiritual or energetic healing. Shamanism, found at the root of all cultures, is a very effective spiritual healing modality. To find quality shamanic healing you can trust, regardless of where you live, look no further than Find Your Path Home Long-Distance Shamanic Healing Program. All Path Home Long-Distance Healing practitioners have been trained and certified through Path Home Shamanic Art School. Change your life. Live abundantly. Schedule a long-distance shamanic healing session with Wilda Wieka or one of her quality practitioners today at findyourpathhome.com.
We're back for segment 2 here on Kal's Corner Radio on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff. I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, again, we're done with politics for now. Let's switch to the paranormal. Folks, last week I started talking about some books that are coming out very shortly. And I talked a little bit about a media event that I had done and prepared a bunch of slides for, and then I sent these slides to a lot of different partners and things, and now they have them, and I sent more of them out to others. And I want to continue explaining what that's about, and hopefully it's of interest to you. Now, being a longtime UFO researcher, going back to 1973, in my short life, now that I'm a senior UFO researcher, one of the older ones out there, I have seen a lot of stuff over the decades. I've witnessed a lot of stuff firsthand. In my so-called career as a UFO researcher, I have known everyone who has been largely relevant or important. And I got to know them at a very young age. And if anybody doubts me, they can go look up newspaper articles that were published in the 1970s, and they can take their doubt and stick it up there. You know what? I have no time for such morons. And what I have encountered now is when I left the U.S. in the year 2000, and I got the bright idea to try to, I'd gotten married to a woman from Armenia, and I got the bright idea to try to start a family and live a normal life before I thought all hell would break loose on the terrorism front. I remember telling people at Boeing, and I remember saying during my exit interview before I left the U.S. government interviewed me to confirm I was leaving on my own free will, blah, blah, blah. God bless them for doing that. I appreciated it. I told everybody who would listen that it's coming. The data is overwhelming that the U.S. is going to be attacked by a terrorist group, most likely bin Laden, Al-Qaeda at that time, and it's going to be something nasty. Make the First World Trade Center thing look like nothing because it ultimately failed. What a lot of people don't know, because Bill Clinton didn't do a good job of telling you about this, and you're saying, well, what does this have to do with the paranormal? We'll get to that in a moment. When the First World Trade Center was attacked, the original plan was to take the van that was loaded with explosives and to go ahead and blow detonated in the garage so that it would cause the building to collapse into the other building and kill as many as 40,000 people. It didn't work. He was not able, Ramzi Youssef, the nephew of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks. 9/11 was basically going back to finish the job they failed to do years earlier when Clinton was elected president. And what happened is the building didn't fall. It didn't knock the other one down. So they went back on 9/11 and did it with planes that time. But the original idea was to do that, and they had failed. And what happened is the international connection to the first World Trade Center attack was largely downplayed by the Clinton administration. There was even a cover-up concerning past involvement in terrorist attacks against the United States, launched actually by Iran, and Bill Clinton also covered that up. We also know that he had at least 3 opportunities to kill bin Laden, and insert your excuse there. Right after 9/11, he says, I tried everything I could to get him, which was just a blatant lie. Before that, he had 3 opportunities, and he said he just didn't have enough evidence to get him. He wasn't sure that was really him. Again, you can't have it both ways, but he didn't try everything. So what this has to do with the paranormal and all that is, in 2000, my book, The Roswell UFO Crash, What They Don't Want You to Know, came out in paperback. It was bought from Prometheus Books by Random House, Bantam, Doubleday Dell, and it remains today the best-selling Roswell expose of all time. Take it or leave it. I'm surprised myself because there's no relation between how long it takes you to write a book and whether it does really well. It took me years to write the Meyer expose. It didn't do nearly as well as Roswell did. Roswell's subject more people care about, and I understand that. Billy Meyer is a very vertical thing, but I just had to laugh that I did that book in about a month, about 5.5 weeks, and that's why it has a very fast pace, because I had a tight deadline. Now, the reason I was able to do that book, Solve Roswell, as it does in the book, is because I'm one of the 4 original Roswell researchers. And real history matters. And if things continue, I'm going to go to my grave someday trying to emphasize this point. Because in my case, and in the case of some of the people I know, like Rob McConnell, he's not only a friend, he's a long-time veteran personality in this field, an expert. He's interviewed thousands of people over the years. He got thousands of interviews. There's a rich archive of material there of all kinds of stuff, of people claiming everything from just BS to stuff that's true. Rob has all kinds of guests on. Those guests sometimes don't tell the truth. Other times they absolutely tell only the truth. It's all over the map, like any show. But in all of this, out of this incredible noise, we try to find the signals that are important. And the important signals are also ones where a case comes out as a hoax, or it's not true, or it's a misidentification. Again, you can't just ignore a UFO case because it didn't come up aliens. You have to accept whatever the verdict is, regardless of what it is. So what I'm getting at is that when I got out of ufology and walked away from it for a while, meaning I had moved to Europe, I left a very comfortable job at Boeing, but I wanted to re-engineer my life, and I did, so that it would be not so much vertical in the IT. I would return more to my journalism roots, and that's why I ended up working at the Prague Post newspaper, later Metropolitan Express newspaper. I have helped launch 3 newspapers in my life. Other ones were in India. So I started out in journalism in high school. It was my first career, so to speak. I had my first full-page cover expose story published in high school. And it was in a UFO magazine. It was an expose of the Billy Meyer UFO cult, and it was the cover story in a UFO magazine. And then it later became a book, expanded from that article. The reason I mention this is because having been there at key times, knowing everybody from Hynek to Friedman to the first co-author of the Roswell book, The Roswell Incident, Bill Moore, he's the one that published my original Meyer expose book that I wrote in high school. And then later, Prometheus published the updated version, Spaceships of the Pleiades, the Billy Meier story, which that also remains the best-selling expose of the Meier case. And the difference in that book versus the one I wrote in high school is it was hundreds of pages longer. I had over around 118 photos in there, as I recall. And I went undercover in Switzerland, posed as a Meier believer with a fake name of Steve Thomas, pretended to be an enemy of Kal Korff. They, of course, hate Kal Korff. And I said, I'll go back and get him for you. Just give me all the data against him. I'll go nail him. I'm a fellow American. You guys are stuck in Switzerland. I'll go get him. And they gave me everything, and none of which nailed me because the case was a hoax. But out of this, I got original photos that Meier had given to the Jakob family. They gave me his entire photo binder because Hans Jakob used to be the custodian of those images back in the 70s, before Meier's first books came out, before even Wendell Stevens knew he existed. Other European researchers like Luzenstock, she's the one who told Stevens that Meier even existed. She had been in touch with him for a while. Hans Jakob had been in touch with him because the families knew each other. They lived close by. So there's a rich history there that just is not very well documented. You won't find it on Google. There's a lot of wonderful stuff in there that is also definitive, and that is what ultimately matters. Now, real history does matter, but let's be honest. Americans in particular are world infamous for not really knowing much history. And I'm not attacking Americans as a culture, although I can do that. I'm American myself. But I'm different from a typical American in that I own a passport. Most Americans don't own a passport, and unless America changes after 200 years, they never will. That's not true in many other countries. Almost everybody has a passport, even if they don't travel. Not in America. In fact, Americans hold the least number of passports considering their population for the type of, they're the world superpower. And yet people just can't be bothered to visit other countries. It's all good in America, right? Well, it's not, but anyway, to each their own. I'm not judging that. By contrast, I've been to 27 countries on 4 continents. And I have traveled for almost 20 years, nonstop, living and visiting and doing research and working as a journalist, doing a bunch of stuff in other countries. And one of the things I really got involved in and did a lot of reporting on, both in Europe and in India, was, of course, terrorism. And the reason I did that is because I got involved as an analyst, and I had worked in that capacity as an analyst earlier in the United States when I was turning over data to the FBI concerning the issue of fundraising that was going on with the terrorist group Hamas. They had given me a briefing about it, and I had information about some Arabs that were sympathetic to the jihadi cause. So, of course, I called the FBI and took matters from there. Again, this is public information. There's no question it happened. There's even legal documents in court about stuff like this. I still have those files. I still have countless thousands of slides from presentations and papers. You know, that's why I'm able to do these UFO presentations and these slides, because all of it came from the terrorist stuff that was done years ago in Prague, right after 9/11. And right after 9/11, the U.S. government and a bunch of other governments gave small private security and counterterrorism groups essentially a blank check. And that wasn't the smartest thing to do. It blew up in their face, and they canceled a lot of that. But people like me were able to capitalize on it, and we got a lot of stuff done. We'll be back after this break.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to the third segment here on Kal's Corner Radio on the X Zone Broadcast Network. Once again, I'm Kal Korff, and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. So, in my professional life, and I don't really have a personal life, my hobbies are my work and vice versa, meaning I can't separate myself from my work. I'm just that kind of guy. Anyway, I've divided it between journalism, being an analyst, both in IT, counterterrorism. I've also been a media personality, have written books, of course, over 10,000 articles. So having lived this kind of life over the years and known a lot of people often, throughout my life and in these countries, it's now time to take a lot of this data and bring it out to the public. I've talked off and on about it over the years. And the rest of the show is going to be dedicated to that so that it finally starts to make sense. And you're going to start to now see stuff come out on the internet, which are the first, let's say, fruits of the labor that this has taken. It's taken many years to do this. Now, let's start with two books that are coming out later this month. One is Annie Jacobsen's Area 51 Book Scandal. This is volume 1 of a series that Rob McConnell and I are doing, and it's long overdue. It's called Ufology or Ufology. It's volume 1. We don't know how many volumes are going to be in this series. It depends on, there's no fixed number. We'll do it until it makes sense not to do it. But why are we doing this? Well, ufology is supposed to be, it is the scientific study of UFO data. Okay? Not UFOs, because they won't cooperate, but the UFO data. Could be a sighting, could be a photo, could be a report of a radar tracking, could be imagery taken by a fighter pilot. Whatever the data is, ufologists study UFO data. Ufology is a scientific study of UFO data. Unfortunately, most of what passes today for what people call ufology is really ufology. And I'm not trying to be clever with words. I like puns and, being, brainiac with words. I've always loved that. I love vocabulary. But ufology is a word I heard from Stanton Friedman when I was a young boy. When I first met him in May of 1975, okay, and I recorded him and everything, he told me that word, and he gave examples of ufology. And he cited the skeptics like Phil Klass as an example of ufology. He even complained about Dr. J. Allen Hynek and a TV special that Hynek had done that had aired recently called, I think it was UFOs Do You Believe? And he specifically told me there was one scene, and I had seen it on TV because I knew Hynek. He was a role model, mentor of mine. And there's a scene where Hynek is interviewing a little boy who claims he took some photographs of a UFO. And the photos did not look real. They looked kind of like a kid's version of what Adamski tried to fake or did fake. And so Hynek says he basically trusted him, for lack of a better term, just patted him on the head and said, okay. Friedman was livid over that. He said, that is ufology. It's not ufology. A proper ufologist would have analyzed the photos, blah, blah, blah. Friedman was right about all that. Absolutely right. God bless him for it. But when you look at how Friedman did his own research, and this is an open secret. Come on, folks, let's be blunt about this. Nice guy, wonderful man, remained friends till the end. But years ago when I was in high school, we had several falling outs over major UFO cases because I began to see, to be blunt, a Friedman shtick going on, and I refused to be part of it. And in the current issue of the Skeptical Inquirer, I have an article in a special report section, says special report, called From Cosmic Watergate to Cosmic Watermelon, the Stanton Friedman I Knew. And it shows a newspaper article from the San Francisco Examiner and a photograph that was taken at that time by the newspaper's photographer. It captures the shocked look on my face, no mistake about it, you can't hide it, when I'm hearing this BS that Friedman is saying. He's saying that the moment the space shuttle goes up in space, it was just launching then, it'll bring down the UFOs because we will have joined the Galactic Federation at that point. He's really using these words here. And it was quoted in another article by another reporter who was there, and he just lit into Friedman over this, and that's in the article too. And then there's a quote where it says in the article where I said, do you really think so? Because I'm shocked at what I'm hearing. And Friedman says, absolutely. He goes on and, does the Friedman shtick. It's all good, Well, I had problems with that. I had problems with the Hill case, and we'll come back to that in a bit. So being one of the 4 original Roswell UFO researchers, when I left the U.S. in the year 2000, my Roswell book was updated, and a new chapter was added to it that exposed Colonel Philip Corso. It's in the book. And my book at that time was the first one to take him out because my original earlier hardcover version had come out just before Corso's had come out, and I could not expose him because I didn't know what was in the book yet. So I had to wait for it to come out. Luckily, the book sold enough to where Random House bought it. That's great. When it goes into paperback, that's kind of like getting a gold record in the publishing industry. It's doing it because, that it's been successful. Okay, fine. Paperback means it's cheaper. It can theoretically get into more hands. More people will read it. That's great. And then as I was, living a life, doing a lot of this, the only real connections I had for a couple years was still doing the old shows with Rob. My life was changing because I thought, as I got to really get involved in the terrorism thing, and I started working really closely with people who were doing the thing in the Cold War, they were on the front lines. There's no question they knew the data from that time. They were there. They were the ones in the bunkers, in the silos, running the commanders and the spies in East Berlin and all that stuff. And what happened was UFOs would always come up because I'm there. I would go up to Prague Castle, meet a bunch of Russians. They'd joke with me over vodkas about UFOs. And I couldn't shake the UFO thing because, it's part of what I've done all my life. And I didn't mind it. But because I was into it, it made for some very interesting discussions over the years. And here's what I found out. And this is another stickler that UFO believers, and I'll explain what a believer is versus a believer. Believers are the worst. They're worse than believers. I'll get to that in a minute. What I'm driving home is a point I drove home on the media event on October 19th, that the biggest problem with the UFO question today is what I call the Mossad problem. Now, what's the Mossad problem? Does Mossad have a problem with UFOs? It doesn't mean that. The problem is Mossad doesn't give a rip about UFOs. They don't care. That's a problem. Houston, we have the major problem. I'll tell you why. Even the most fanatical, paranoid conspiracy nut even the most radical jihadi terrorists, they all admit to a person that Mossad is the biggest badass intelligence entity in the history of the human race. There's no agency that's better. I will tell you, having had access to Mossad data, having met people with Mossad, having taken some of the training, and I want to be clear, I've never worked for Mossad, don't even go there. Never worked for CIA either, don't even go there. Never worked for an intel agency, never been a spy. But I did encounter a lot of people who believe James Bond is real. And when they found out that I wasn't doing those James Bond things, they thought I wasn't telling the truth. And I'm thinking, oh, great. I'm not behaving like a fictional Hollywood character, so I'm the guy who's not credible. Okay, I get it. That's the kind of world we live in. In the meantime, here's my 600-page report and analysis on this terrorist group or attack or whatever. You know what you can go do with yourself. That's the kind of stuff that went on here and there. The people that really mattered weren't into those games, but I heard some of this off and on over the years, people making up crap on the internet and stuff. Well, now it's time to revisit some of this stuff, not to deal with some of these bozos, but to just finish getting the truth out there. So what I did on this media event is I prepared some slides, and I'll release them shortly. I'm going to publish them as part of a slide book called The Mossad Problem. Now, Russia, the KGB, their intelligence agency, that's not its current name, but it used to be KGB, had other names too. They've got UFO files. The British have UFO files. But, you know, I even asked Nick Pope years ago in Prague, from Prague. He wasn't there, he's in Britain. I said, Nick, tell me the truth here, because I know this answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. And I know this because I was in England chasing this down. When you were running the so-called UFO desk, you know, he's supposed to be the Fox Mulder of the British MOD, right? Ministry of Defense. He's not. Fox Mulder doesn't exist. But anyway, I said, be honest with me. And Nick was honest, give him credit. He admitted to me when I asked him the simple question, did you ever find any smoking gun at all? Aliens? He said no. Well, again, Houston, we have a problem. Because if Nick couldn't find it, running the UFO desk, either the aliens ignored Britain during that time or nothing was going on. I think it was nothing was going on. Because Mossad doesn't have reams of UFO secret files. They don't have secret Roswell debris. They don't even have Art's parts in their collection. Okay? Now, that's a problem because if all this stuff was going on and UFOs are crashing everywhere, Mossad would be all over it. Jewish scientists, Israeli scientists would be reverse engineering this and probably leading the pack. You know, we'll come back to that after this commercial break here in a bit and drive this point home and others about the 2 new books coming out that are going to try to correct the historical record that has been bastardized and lied to by the UFO community, lied about by the UFO community.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, The 70-Year Cover-Up Exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now to receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to imaginemoresuccess.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? Have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hides' life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking.
Welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on Kal's Corner Radio Show. I'm Kal Korff and your host. I'm your host, and the executive producer, once again, is Rob McConnell. Boy, this show goes by so fast, at least for me, hopefully for you too. Hopefully it's not grinding on forever as you listen to it. But let's finish up with the segment we have here, the last segment, to close off this point, and we can continue again next week on it, because this will be on people's tongues, as they say, or people's minds. People will be talking about it, I predict, over the next at least couple of months. Now, again, what's coming out is a book called Annie Jacobsen's Area 51 Book Scandal. It is written jointly by Rob McConnell and myself. And let me tell you why this book exists. First of all, I'm not trying to pick on poor Annie Jacobsen or anybody else. Don't even go there. Are you that desperate? Again, I'm one of the 4 original Roswell UFO researchers, period. Regardless of what you think of me or believe whatever about me or don't, you can't take that out of history. I'm one of the 4. I was there. I grew up with Bill Moore and Stanton Friedman. No question. I am the author of the best-selling expose on Roswell, period. Again, you can't take that out of the universe. So when I was in India, working at Daily Post, minding my own business, doing everything from being director of HR and head of branding to being a columnist web team and writing all my stuff there, and being special advisor to the owner as well, and part of his security detail, etc. Again, many different things that I do. My critics can't handle it for some reason. That's their problem. All of a sudden, one day in the newsroom, people are laughing, saying, have you seen this new book on Roswell by this writer, this reporter from the LA Times? She says, Stalin worked with, Joseph Mengele, the angel of death, who, personally selected people to die at Auschwitz for extermination. Others he spared, he later operated on. Look up Joseph Mengele, the angel of death. He died a war criminal. Unfortunately, they never found him. So Annie Jacobsen, in her book, wrote that Joseph Mengele escaped, went to Russia, worked with the Russians, and using a captured Horton Brothers Batwing type aircraft, likely jet-powered, flew this Batwing craft that contained 2 surgically altered children that were altered surgically by Mengele to make them look like aliens so that they would then crash in the desert and cause panic in the U.S. populace and among the U.S. military. Now, when I first heard this, I asked my Indian friends, I said, I know English isn't your native language, nothing personal, but are you sure you're telling me this the correct way? Because I hadn't read anything yet. They're like, yeah, this is what they're saying. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. Because let's say that it really happened. Once the Horton Brothers aircraft crashed, they would have said, oh, this is a Horton Brother craft, because the U.S. already had them from World War II anyway. They captured them. They had the Horton Brothers in their custody. Hello? So they would know that this was one of their things. They wouldn't say, oh, isn't that amazing that aliens invent the same thing we do or the Nazis did? No. The U.S. military, even Jesse Marcel, would have been smart enough to say, hey, it's a captured Nazi aircraft. So it couldn't be from outer space. And as far as these kids looking weird, well, could be from the crash or it could be somebody was just whatever. But it wouldn't so panic. The only panic that might occur is if Russia demonstrated a military capability that was a threat to the U.S. And in 1947, a captured Horton Batwing aircraft is no military threat, since we already had Nazis smuggled into Germany or out of Germany working for the U.S. government as part of Operation Paperclip. Duh, hello. In fact, the head of NASA was Dr. Wernher von Braun, who worked on the V rockets, the V2s. So there you go. And he put us on the moon. So it makes no sense. They would have said immediately, oh, okay. Well, the reason this Horton Brothers aircraft would not have been a threat, it's kind of common sense, is because this is 1947. The U.S. is still the world's only nuclear power. What's Russia going to do? Fly jet aircraft and try to stop a nuke with it? It doesn't work that way. Physics doesn't work that way. So the very idea is so stupid. The question I asked myself was, why would somebody like Annie Jacobsen write a pathetic claim like this? I realize she didn't claim it. She says she's quoting a source. But that source is on record with different people as saying he didn't say that. He also says he just said it to help her sell her book. Well, there you go. Regardless of whether the truth is between those two versions of the story, they both can't be right. Well, and he also says he had said it earlier. Again, you got three versions. They all can't be true. It means that the very claim itself has to be disregarded as being a piece of credible evidence, because it's like trying to say a person's a little bit pregnant. Reality doesn't work that way. Now, let's say that there was no claim at all that Stalin and Mengele worked together and faked Roswell. Let's say that Annie Jacobsen never put that in there. Well, according to Dr. T.D. Barnes, who was interviewed by Jacobsen, I quote him at the beginning of the expose article that I did within a few days after Annie Jacobsen's book had come out. It had come out, I believe, in April of 2011. I had just gotten married again to a woman from India. And what happened, I was working at a daily Post newspaper. And what happened is by May, early May, a few days later, I wrote an article and an expose. I wrote an article and a paper that was published on the internet in script and in the newspaper, taking Annie Jacobsen out, exposing her false claims. And I did it because I had the data from Barnes. I had seen investigative reporter Weir from ABC tell Annie Jacobsen on TV point blank, because he talked to her source, and that source said to him, to Bill Weir, I never said this. I don't know what she's talking about. So there you go. Annie Jacobsen doesn't tell you any of this in her book. She doesn't even talk about it now. It's pathetic. So the only reason that I decided to take this paper that's been out there since 2011, parts of which were published in the newspapers, and blow it up into a book and add more material to it, is because, much to my disappointment, I'll just politely say that, this whole Annie Jacobsen Roswell stupidity has grown legs again, and here we go again. And damn it, it's time that it be taken out and exposed for what it is. So that's why this book exists. This book, Annie Jacobsen's Area 51 Book Scandal, shows exactly where Mengele was after the war, near the end of the war, where he escaped to. All his whereabouts are completely accounted for. And I used former classified data from the Department of Justice investigation and their report, which is linked to in the book, so you can read it. It's over 600 pages. And there's no question that Mengele was never in Russia, never helped Stalin, never was involved in Roswell. And it is beyond proven, meaning there's no question it did not happen. So now when anybody tells you it did happen, you have a decision to make. Either you let him get away with lying or being ignorant or spreading BS, either willingly or unwittingly, or you have to stop and say, hold on, there's no such thing as being a little bit pregnant. It's not possible, okay? We know where Mengele was. Let's say the Mengele story didn't even exist. We also know, because there was a book that came out and proved it, using government data that was classified, that Roswell was caused by Project Mogul. Therefore, there could not have been a Mengele, could not have been a Stalin, could not have been a Horton brothers. So that's 2 strikes. And the third one's automatic, because if it never happened, it never happened. Never means never. So that's why this book is being released under the theme of Real History Matters, because real history does matter. And history has also proven, as great philosophers have said repeatedly over the years, that if people don't learn the lessons from history, they are doomed to repeat it. That's why World War II essentially started. The lessons from World War I were not driven home enough, despite the loss of millions of dead. Ridiculous. So I'm not going to allow people to get away with the BS that Roswell involved aliens. I'm not going to let Linda Moulton Howe get away with the claims that Art's parts, these fragments that were exposed in my own book years ago in 1997, using data from Art Bell, that they're a hoax. But yet that's what's going on now, folks. So these books, when they start to come out, and next week we'll talk about the other one coming out on the Hill case, they're going to be released so that when people at least search on the internet, they'll at least find the other truth. And each book has a very special feature in it, in that it's got links from Rob's shows to the relevant subject, and each book has a bookshelf built in so that you can automatically read the other books in the series. All right, we're done for this week. I'll be back next week with another episode. Thanks for joining me, and we'll continue this.